Gentrification's detractors will tell you that rising rents and increased property values force out locals and small businesses from affected neighborhoods. Proponents say the influx of new residents and businesses is worth celebrating, as the change leads to a better quality of life for an entire... Pick up the story there. Gentrification, how does it fit into this picture of the new American dream?
Well, it's either the most beloved word or the most hated word in the language. And whether you feel good about it or bad about it really doesn't matter. Gentrification is just life. And it's sort of like bitching and moaning about the weather. It just is. And as I mentioned earlier, we're going to be dealing with gentrification for the next generation. So let's just deal with it. And our opinion of whether it's good or bad really doesn't mean much.
Freeman started important because it was the first black neighborhood within the city limits of Houston. Now that says a lot. And these people came out of bondage and used that skill to form a civilian society that was self-sufficient because they couldn't use whites' facility because it was segregation, separate but equal, Jim Crow.
What do you want to achieve having this place come?
Well, those families are homeless. The city needs to let those families come back into their homes so they can maintain it, because there wasn't no weeds there when they there. They mowed the lawn and kept it, maintained the place. And so they need to bring those people back and let those people have a place to stay, because they need a place to stay. And the rents were over here that they were paying were rents that they could afford. Where they shipped them to, the rents tripled and doubled. These are some nearly 100-year-old houses built by formerly enslaved Africans. They were lived in from 1914 to 2005. And at 2005, the city closed this business down. The owner had renters in there. The city closed them down. And then the mayor of the city real estate department come back and try to buy them from him. And the folks got upset about that. That the very city who closed down their operating business are the same people
I'd like to first start off giving all praises and glory to Yahweh Shem Yahushai. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and blessings to all the Akim across the four corners of the earth that's pushing this truth and faith and sincerity. And today I want to go into some brief history on the 4th Ward of Houston, formerly known as Freeman's Town. And this was established about 2 or 3 years after the Emancipation Proclamation, where the first crop of so-called freed slaves basically inhabited, which is known as 4th Ward / Freeman's Town. And this was a thriving, it became a thriving community. They started building, building up the community to where it got to the point where it was known as the Harlem of the South. It had, according to different documents, over 400 black-owned businesses, jazz clubs, restaurants, nightclubs, etc., schools, churches. And basically gentrification started back dealing with the 4th Ward back in the mid to late 1930s. It wasn't called gentrification back then. It was just basically the so-called white man through the city and the federal government moving out so-called blacks off their property and building government buildings, building a convention center, a music hall, coliseums, or a coliseum, and they also built. It was basically a upscale project for war veterans, but it was only privileged and permitted to all to white, so-called whites, which are Edomites. So that's how it started off, and then gradually, over the course of time, around the 1970s and 80s, then it was known as gentrification, when they started moving out, basically moving so-called Negroes out of their off their land and displacing them through different areas in Houston, and
now that it's all over,
and basically expanding downtown and moving in upper class so-called white people, which are Edomites. You know, and they built lofts, bars, and this is all upscale, you know, lofts, bars, restaurants, and clubs, etc., you know. And basically going back to, like I said, in the 1930s or mid 1930s, they did this gentrification basically through something called the Eminent Domain Law, where it gave the city or which had got federal funding from the, you know, the government, and started up these federally funded and city funded programs to take privately owned property of so-called blacks. Now, the reason I'm doing this, going over this history, is just to further push that the so-called blacks, you know, were never freed from slavery. You know, I'm not really dealing with the tribes too much in this lesson, even though it still applies to the other tribes of Israel, you know. But basically dealing with the so-called Negroes, you know, you never were freed from slavery, you know. And I say you, I'm a Native American, you know, even though I have a so-called Negro in me. You know, according to the scriptures, we identify our nationality based upon our fathers. So that's why I say you so-called Negroes were not freed after the Emancipation Proclamation. The so-called white man just made you believe you were free through his Emancipation Proclamation, you know, which is all an illusion. Now, the videos I showed before I started speaking, you know, I put that up because basically they're moving so-called blacks out of their homes and displacing them throughout Houston, you know. And my personal take on it is that the reason why they not, you know, demolishing the land or the property, you know, what's ever built on the property, whether it's a home or a business, is because, you know, they got future plans for that property. So now they're just sitting on the property that's owned by the city now, and they have future plans to basically a demolition project to knock all that stuff down and to rebuild more upscale infrastructure. And they're doing this because the so-called white man believes, you know, he will rule forever. You know, that his kingdom should never be taken down, according to Psalms chapter 49 verse 11. Now, like I was saying about the basically about the so-called white man being able to just take your land, it proves that you're not free, you know, and it proves that you really don't have no land. The white man, the so-called white man, the Edomites, made you believe that you had land, that you could buy land and that's your land and you can't be moved off of it, you know. But you so-called Negroes, you never owned anything here in America, you know. So I'm gonna bring out a few scriptures and I'm gonna sign out. So this is Baruch chapter 3 verse 8. Behold, we are yet this day in our captivity, where thou hast scattered us for a reproach and a curse, and to be subject to payments. according to all the iniquities of our fathers, which departed from the Lord our God. So this is why this type of stuff can happen to us, is because we broke the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High. Therefore, he put us in slavery under the so-called white man and these other nations, you know. And now we're subject to payments. We don't own no land. We don't have our own land. Even though the so-called white man would tell you different, you know, you're still a slave. We're still in captivity in the year 2015 until the Lord, our Lord, who is Yahweh Shai, delivers the nation of Israel, starting with the elect, you know. So I read that again. Behold, we are yet this day in our captivity, where thou hast scattered us, where the Most High has scattered us, for a reproach and a curse. Yeah, and we look like a reproach and a curse. And even the neighborhoods that we live in, it looks like a reproach and a curse. You know, that was one of the reasons, the main reasons, or the justification why Esau said, you know, basically we need to rebuild the area where the blacks are living, you know. But it's all gentrification, you know. And it's all done through unrighteous decrees. I read on. And to be subject to payments according to all the iniquities of our fathers, which departed from the Lord our power, or our God. So I got one more scripture, and I'll be signing out. Micah chapter 2 verse 10. Micah 2 and 10. Arise ye and depart, for this is not your rest. America is talking about right here in America. Is not your rest, because after the Emancipation Proclamation, where Negroes thought they were free, they thought right here in America they could obtain rest, and they still believe that to this very day. They think that, you know, this is the place to be. They think they're gonna live here in America and live longevity here in America, and that's not gonna happen, man. This place is headed for destruction. And the destruction is coming from the Most High, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. I'll continue. Because it is polluted, it shall destroy you even with a sword destruction. Right. This ain't our rest. This is our, we were brought over here to serve captivity. And all the tribes are still serving captivity right now. We were not brought over here to rest. The rest is in the kingdom of heaven, which is for the nation of Israel. Starting with the elect. And then this place can't be our rest because it is polluted. The air is polluted, the water is polluted, the food is polluted, thanks to the so-called white man, Esau. And then homosexuality is accepted, is pushed and promoted in this wicked kingdom. It's another way it's polluted. The main way it's polluted. You know? And then he got all these different doctrines out here, or these different philosophies that you can get a hold to here in America to stray you away from the Most High and his Son, Yahweh Yahweh Shai. I'm going to continue. Well, I'll read that last part again, I'm sorry. Because it is polluted, it shall destroy you even with a sword destruction. And this, America has destroyed the nation of Israel, you know. It has destroyed you so-called Negroes. That's why you look the way you look in the streets of America. You know, you're in the worst conditions in every category. Basically that's it, man. I just want to once again bring out this short lesson just to show you, or you know, further proof through this gentrification that's going on. And it's not only going on in Houston, this is going on all over the country, you know, in other cities, that you so-called Negroes, you know, and other tribes, you're not free. You know, you're still under the rule of Esau, the so-called white man. And with that, shalom.
You live here, you're a renter here. And who do you rent from?
Well, no one now, because the
city's acquired it, and so I'm not obligated to clear it out.
When did the city
acquire it? Well, it's
like a month ago, 2 months ago, 6 years?
Weeks ago, I got a notice that it wasn't issued in my name, but it was a document showing that they had right of possession to the property because the eminent domain process was complete.
So you haven't paid rent here in that time?
Since the last time I paid rent, I think it's 6 years.
So as the city would say, you've been living here illegally?
Well, I'm not. There's no way I could be living here illegally. You know, I was here for 5 years. The only reason they're putting me out is because they've acquired it and they don't want me here. But I'm not here illegally.
Well, living in the house, you're not authorized to live in the house anymore.